Yeah.
Follow meeting Thursday, March 29th, all right,
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments, this is anything not on tonight's agenda that we should know about. We need that now. Good job on the correction. Okay,
Comments?
public comments, just anything not on the agenda.
Not on the...
Yeah, if it's on the agenda, we'll take comments.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Just a general question?
Sure.
After the last meeting we attended, would the commission be willing to accept input in writing or using technology to communicate ideas instead of...
We kind of can't do that because then that constitutes a meeting. Right, am I reading that right?
No, you can.
So
So,
you're asking, could you email us ideas, is that what you mean?
Just, I mean, you're having these weekly. Obviously, we're interested in what's going on and want to participate. Us personally, we live in East Hampton, we have the exact same issues going on in planning and zoning there, so we're going to those meetings as well. It was just a thought, or maybe the local business owners, we could find a way to communicate together and have a voice here.
well, all right, so anyone can submit written testimony, and if you remember, it was either last week or the week before, I read those letters into the record. So you can do that.
Okay.
If you have a visual that you want to submit, maybe you have an idea or something, if you give it to me or send it to me, I will copy it for the commission so that they can all have their own
Okay,
copies.
so
and see what-
everyone at least, yeah, so that, because it's not realistic for us personally to be here on a weekly basis, it's just, but we want to be involved and proactive with the whole process, so. All right.
And actually, before we move off of public comments, can you lay out what the plan's gonna be for tonight? Like, are we gonna, because last time there was a lot of,
I thought we were going to discuss the boundaries.
so are you gonna accept public comment all during our conversations, or do you want the commission to talk a little bit first and then open it up, or vice versa?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is, we'll go through everything, and then we'll take public comments at the end of our discussions. That'll make it a little bit, hopefully a little faster. We can get through a little bit more, and we're not covering a whole lot. Is there anything else? Okay. Yes, we'll keep the comments at the end. And you're all set.
Almost, I think.
Any other questions or comments on that, Chairman? All right, so let's open the discussion regarding zoning regs for the federal area.
Okay. I'm actually gonna start with, I just want to plant a seed in your head, which is that if we are going to have a June 7th hearing date, we need to have these wrapped up by April 19th, basically. So just keep that in mind.
Good.
And we can talk about that more at the end of the meeting.
But that June date is not 6 months,
It is not.
so that's just a,
July, I had it written down.
You said the 7th, 2 weeks ago, is the end date?
It's not the end date. The end date is, I think it's July 7th, or July, I'm gonna have to clock it out again, but
if it's scheduled
if you wanna have it,
Gateway and all that.
right, and this accounts for that.
Okay. I don't think we should shortcut this process because of a 3-month, our own imposed 3-month deadline. We worked on it. Well, no, you said June. I think that's 3 months.
All right, we'll leave this in.
January. So January, with an effective of the middle of,
February.
no, effective in the beginning of January.
You're talking about the adoption of the...
The moratorium.
Oh, okay.
February, March, April, May, June, July. So at some point in mid-July.
All right, so we should.
I agree with you, that we shouldn't,
If we aim at June, then it gives us a little wiggle room.
gives us a little wiggle room.
The April 19th gives us a little wiggle room, like a week or two. Okay.
And
All right.
that April 19th meeting, I'm not here.
Okay.
Okay, so before so what I think we all agreed on is that we were gonna talk about boundaries tonight. And everyone has a map of Tylerville. There's extra maps in the back, if residents want to play along. I stole my kids' markers. There's markers here, and we can pass them to the audience if they want some. But one of the things that we talked about tonight is possibly having two districts, and if we have two districts, what would those boundaries be? So there would be a village district A and a village district B, essentially. One might be a little bit more intense than the other. The second one might be sort of a transitional zone. I did want to share something that Patrick Pennell sent to me today. He did up these, so the commission has these in print in your packets. These are not easy to read.
All I did was go to the town of EIS map, and this is a follow-up to the comment that I made. I was very impressed with the business owners' concerns about traffic on Bridge Street. And I made the kind of blanket statement that I thought that it could be pretty easily traffic calmed without any takings of adjacent property. So this is just intended to follow that up. I did the east and the west end of Bridge Streets, measured the current public right-of-way, and in fact, it's actually pretty easy for the west end. Within the narrowest section before 85 Bridge is 52 feet. And if you don't start the road at the current highway 13 or 14 foot standard, you can absolutely get in 10 or 11 foot travel lanes, and if you want, 8 foot wide, 7 or 8 foot wide parallel parking along the street. That will absolutely fit in.
And sidewalks.
And sidewalks.
Yeah, so just this area here at the intersection of 154 and Bridge Road is 52, and it looks like it goes variable widths throughout. Going down to the bridge. These aren't as easy to see, but
There's
here you
a
have
narrow neck
102.
of about 36 feet. That's the narrowest point of the public right of way in the whole length of Bridge Street.
So wait, where's it?
That's right, 36 feet is kind of towards the left-hand edge of this slide, which is the east end
Okay.
of Bridge Street. It's right near, the pinch point is right by 85 Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you included
Yeah, this is a page from a kind of neighborhood design Bible called the Lexicon of the New Urbanism that I've been helping to assemble for 30 years. And if anybody's interested, that red box is a 20-mile-an-hour cross-section. You can do that in 34 feet plus whatever sidewalks you want to have.
Yeah, so it has the different zones. Basically what you can fit in what width street
Exactly.
at various speeds. So at a 30-mile-per-hour zone,
These are nationally accepted best practice standards. So I think we've got a pretty good argument taking this to DOT. So it's obviously a state-numbered highway, and that will be a discussion with DOT. But it would significantly help the kind of binge and purge behavior of the traffic on Bridge Street.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that's a conversation to be had with DOT. They're not always amenable to parallel parking on the road. But it's a conversation that we could have, because it would add parking, it would slow traffic, and it would create interest.
DOT has on the book something called CSS, or Context-Sensitive Solutions, which is the passage of state-numbered highways through business districts. So we've got an entry point for that.
So that little red box right there looks a lot like Deep River.
Deep River is probably a
That's
little
how I'm
wider
reading.
And is Deep River even 30 miles per hour? It's probably like
Deep River is
25.
25, posted speed through the center of town. East Haddam is 25 miles an hour through the center of town.
Wait, 55?
Late 60.
Can I ask just a quick question related to this? Does the amount of traffic tie into this somehow in this publication?
You can go from this to what the DOT calls the throughput, how many vehicles per hour can go through. It's a more complex equation having to do with level of service, with the number of stops, starts and stops in a given length of time, but it does basically tie to throughput, and I'm given the right-of-way available, we can still get the throughput that would be needed, not to exaggerate the backups that already occur when swing bridge is open. It's a handleable technical situation is the bottom line of what I'm here to report back to you on.
Can I ask a question as well? Regarding the parallel parking, I mean, it's already such a busy street. How can we accommodate people trying to parallel park?
In part, that's one of the reasons that you do it. You slow traffic down. It's slow and steady beats intermittent and fast. That's the
I mean, I
basic.
just know a lot of people who have such a hard time parallel parking. And I just can't imagine, you know, I mean, I used to work in Essex and they had such a hard time in, you know, on Main Street.
Let's just stipulate, it's a lost art. All I'm saying today is that it is technically feasible. That's what I just wanted to establish as a
Now
head.
we have cars that do it for you.
I was just gonna say that.
What you
Cars
said?
do it for
Cars
them.
do it for you now.
Is it really advised for this location?
There is nothing better for slowing down traffic than on-street
Then opening a door and ramming the door off.
Go ahead.
One question. Are we looking way ahead? We should go to the state first and ask the state what they're going to allow before we waste all this time on this? You're talking 14,000 cars a day, one way across the bridge, one way across the river, and we're going to slow the traffic down to make it fit our needs. Is the state going to allow that?
They've allowed it in other village districts, but to your point,
In a village
this is a conversation, again, down the road.
It's
You
just
know,
a talking point. That's all it is. You guys are all overreacting, going crazy, this is gonna happen tomorrow, and it's not. Just take a breath. Let's go through the process. Let it play out. Take a breath. Just putting an idea out there for us to visualize. Go ahead.
So let's talk about boundaries. So at the end of the last meeting, well, actually, this will work. This isn't really what I wanted, but, hold on, I just need to zoom. Okay, so everybody has a map in front of them that doesn't have any color on it. This is the existing zoning, so the purple is industrial, the pink color is commercial. At the end of the last meeting, it felt like we were making real headway with the idea of having these alternate B streets. And those B streets would ideally come through here somewhere and connect Ridge Road and Saybrook Road and come through the DOT property. Exactly where those might lie is going to, I guess, depend on future development. And one of the things that I think the commission can do, we'll talk about this after, is an incentive is allow for modifications in the village district, just like you have in Higgin Village, if people are preserving historic structures or if they're creating a right-of-way or an easement to further one of these roads. And so that we get some of that commercial frontage more to the rear and we get some relief, traffic relief going through here, and we have more commercial frontage, more streets to front on. But I think one of the things that we need to do is talk about whether or not we're going to have one Tylerville Village District, whether or not we're going to have two, and what those boundaries are going to be. So at the end of the last meeting, there was talk about having a village district that was basically kind of like this block here. And then maybe we have a secondary type village that allows things, maybe you regulate it by size or by coverage, and so that you get that retention of, there was some concern expressed about what if people want to take down historic structures. So you might have a provision in both the districts that would require a special permit to tear down a structure before you can tear it down and build something new, just like you have in Higgin. So I guess what I wanted to do is for everyone to sort of take a minute, and I know this is silly, but with my kids' markers, and sort of mark out what you see as being the village districts.
Right.
And there's enough crayons probably to go through, the markers to go through, for the residents as well.
Was the non-historic buildings in this area?
46, I think.
Oh, I don't know a number, but I know that they're mainly through this strip here, Merchant House kind of going back, and then along this strip here, like where the marriage counselor is, and Whole Harmony. And then through here, most of those lots have a historic structure on them. Sorry, not the Dunkin' Donuts, but going through there.
On Ridge Road?
On Ridge Road.
Residences, you mean?
The residences, yeah.
Oh,
From Dunkin' Donuts going down to the river.
I think it's really only city buildings.
In the POCD, it states between Shalerville and Tylerville, so I don't know the differentiation, there's 46. And then, I'm assuming that's updated on the website, because it's a dated POCD of 2007.
Yeah, actually, Lisa, between Shalerville and Tylerville, because I think you were part of that statement, that's really referring to where the cemetery is on Camp Bethel, right? That's considered the Shalerville area?
Yeah. And they're combined in the POCD, that's why I don't know how many. I'm assuming that is the correct one, right, dated 2007?
The one on the website is not the current one, because I looked at that today.
But the 2018
It's
not.
is on the website.
It's in a different spot.
Oh, okay.
Not at the link, so I've been reading the
Because the
wrong one.
2007 shouldn't even be on there
It is.
anymore. Okay,
It is.
I will have that taken off.
So I read 129 pages today.
That gray spot there, that gray, is that two different districts or is that the same one?
Purple.
No, I guess the gray, I'm colorblind.
That's okay, the yellow, the
Yes.
bigger, the bigger
The
area?
dark one here is industrial, currently industrial.
Yeah,
This area here, it's pink, but it's probably shows up as sort of a light gray.
yeah.
That is zoned commercial.
Oh, that is, okay.
And then this yellowy color here is zoned R2.
Okay.
So that's a residential district. And I think that, I mean, what might be helpful is if we got some basic sort of truths down, like what I'm kind of hearing is that you don't want any of the currently commercial property to get rezoned to residential necessarily. So you either want it to be commercial or one of the village districts or industrial or something like that. So I think by having some parameters, it will help us with come up with some regulations. I mean, with the boundary. The other thing we need to consider is the industrial piece. We don't have a lot of industrial land. You know, I would advocate of leaving it industrial because it's to the rear, but it's up to the commission how you want to address that. If you want it to be, it's going to be an island of industrial. Yeah, that's where Essex Design is.
I would leave that so that there's some sort of central employer in the town, or in the village.
Well, you might even want to carry that zone over to the self-storage area. So you have, you know, an even bigger area if they were to expand, or if something were to change with that down the road.
Was that one of the areas we were looking for a future back road? Wasn't that in one of the property lines there?
Yes. It would go probably, well, either through the, along the side of the self-storage
Exactly.
back to Brooks Court here, or through the Dunkin', around the Dunkin' Donuts and kind of through this way. I can, so this is something that Patrick did that shows the lot, it's good because it shows the lot lines in the buildings. This is just a concept. One street could go back here. I might advocate that it might come up here instead and then go, you know, through here so that you don't waste up or, you know, use up this lot. Although this would give that two frontages, so there'd be a frontage here and there'd be a frontage there. You'd lose some of the frontage on Bridge Road. And again, down here, it would either need to go between 85 and 79 Bridge Road between, you know, where the Wool connection was and Battelle property through DOT somehow.
Well, it'd have to go.
Liz, could I make a comment?
Have to go on the Battelle property.
There are a lot of different ways of doing this, and it's a matter of adjusting it so that for any given property owner, the property that's lost is more than compensated for by the new valuable frontage gained, if you follow. There's a trade-off, and there are a lot of different ways of routing this, and these, you know, one or two roads north or south. But that's basically the trade-off that is being proposed to the property owners as a, you know, you get value with additional frontage in return for giving over an easement or even the property to this, these new B streets.
And I don't think it's something that we write down and say, this is where the streets are gonna be. It's something that's gonna have to happen organically, and you have to have it in the regulations so that people are incentivized. So if you give up a right-of-way for a commercial frontage, you will get to have a more dense development. You can have modifications or changes to parking. You can vary the building material that you're using, or whatever it is, but if you have those laid out, then it can become very attractive for somebody to want to build one of these roads. And I think you need to hold that carrot out.
Might that be
If
the
this is
area
what-
that you allow drive-throughs?
Could be. I mean, we can,
Let's
let's,
not go down that road.
let's come up with a district first,
Okay.
and then let's
What's
talk
allowed?
about,
Okay.
Can I ask
Uses.
a very quick question? Is there a benchmark to the, I mean, is there a town that has done this, that we're using as a, you know, see, I'm not trying to be a wise ass. I mean, is there something that we're trying to duplicate or aspire to be? Because I think this is great. I just can't get my
Kent
head.
has done something like this, just for example. On the east side of Kent, the next time you're up that
Yeah.
direction, you can see an example of this south of the old railway station.
I'm just,
Hebron has also done something kind of similar. Their roads aren't through roads, but the town acquired some property and created like an industrial park, and now they're actually gonna probably have a municipal center there too.
okay. I'm just looking for, because I think this would be a wonderful thing.
Marlboro's another example.
I can't get my head around the execution of it with the multiple parties that would be involved.
So if, let's just say you're using this as a model. Let's say you're this guy here, and you own this lot and this, so this boundary here is owned all by one person here, okay? And right now, he has a Dunkin' Donuts here. If he wanted, and it just so happens that he also owns this parcel, okay? If he wanted to add frontage, like make this lot more attractive, he could put a road in here and have frontage here, or he could do something like is shown in this drawing where it comes in here, and now he's got frontage here. He's bisecting the lot, so he's a smaller lot, but he has frontage here and frontage here. If he could work out something with at least getting the right-of-way here, and then over time, it's possible that this would be attractive to the person who owns these lots. Now, maybe they're not gonna go straight through like that. Maybe they wanna come down like this, but they would be creating additional commercial frontage. And it would also provide some traffic alleviation.
Right, that's what's jumping out at me. Is the traffic, a positive impact to the traffic issue.
Well, yeah, so like, let's just say there's a store or a shop here, and the bridge is stuck open for whatever reason, which hopefully isn't gonna happen anymore. You can still get into this business and get out. Unlike the businesses here, which you can't.
It's a new test driving move for Mike's audit.
Okay, so,
So the boundaries.
the boundaries. All right, everyone's gonna have to show their picture. So Jamin, I'm gonna have you hold yours up and tell us about it.
I just went from the village at Haddam, and I went south, or well, I went up as far as the edge of Brooks Court. Incorporated the self-storage. I don't know what that's Dunkin' Donuts lot, but I kind of went across where Botel's piece is, to the corner, down the state, and did the gas station, had a pizza. The land that's across the street, but it's up the hill, so one thinks it wasn't redeveloped, and then down to that house, where the guy was parked the building was.
Okay, so you didn't include the condo piece, the piece that is just north of the Saybrook at Haddam.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so that is currently zoned commercial. You guys can use those too.
I didn't because it was a farm. I didn't want to use a farm.
but it's zoned commercial. Just, I'm not, so we had said at the beginning that we didn't want to take any properties that were commercial and zone them. So this is that piece right here.
Oh, okay.
I'm not arguing, I'm just making a statement. So, all right,
So if you want to keep it commercial.
so to understand, Jamin, you've got yours theoretically, basically where the pink is.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
Except for that one that's north.
Yeah, except for the,
Okay. What about you, Bob?
I'm thinking the same thing, but I didn't complete the assignment. But I'm finding myself pretty much tracing the same thing, so.
Chip?
I haven't been yet. I'm the same as Jamie.
Gina?
I did include that piece.
Okay, and you also included the river house.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's already commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not arguing, I'm just talking.
oh, you went all the way out to the,
Well, I kind of parceled it out.
Oh.
Separate.
My turn?
Yeah. Then someone's got a question.
So I did the pink on the left, outlined all that. The river house, just because it is already commercial. And then down by the river, a recreation zone or whatever. A part of the village that's maybe a little bit different, but still under some control.
Okay, so when you say recreation zone, you mean a conservation zone that, okay, these two are state pieces, so they would theoretically be conservation zone. This is, these two here are also owned by the state. This is where,
The parking.
the parking lot is, and Catherine Cruise Lines, or the Lady Catherine Park's here, River Quest is here, and this property here is a single-family residence. So what would you do with these three? That you have them be village district or a different kind of village district?
I think a different kind. A river access district, river recreation district, or
Riverfront district.
riverfront district, there you go.
I don't know river.
They call that Newport as well.
Yeah, and I don't know right now how that would differ, but I don't think you'd want,
And I don't think we're gonna go into that now with this moratorium, but something.
right.
Well, all right, so let's talk about that, because I think that if you have some properties that are zoned village district and other properties that are zoned commercial, I think you want to essentially level the playing field. I don't think you want properties zoned commercial that don't have some of the opportunities and requirements, like going through ARC, that the village district properties would have.
I mean, I guess, I feel like where that commercial is down by the river, while it may be in a village area, I don't feel it's like the village district.
Okay.
I just think it's away from that Bridge Street, Saybrook Road intersection. For me, that area there is the village district, in my opinion. Others may feel otherwise, that's fine.
All right. What would be allowed, if we had a river zone or a recreational zone, what would we allow in it?
Side of the track.
How would it be different than the village district? Would it be more intense, less intense? Would it regulate structures or uses or?
If it's less intense, it would be under the watchful eye of ARC.
And I would say uses that foster the train and, is it Lady Catherine? That was called. You know, uses that foster that area.
There used to be a food establishment there years ago.
Yeah.
All right, what about food?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we'll drive it down there.
I think whatever this.
There's McDonald's by the river. Mickey D's on the river.
I think whatever.
I think just less intense retail than we might allow up on the
Okay.
mall.
So tourism-related things,
Tourism and
baked,
marine
that kind of
related.
thing.
Yeah.
Probably on the storage structure and kind of stuff, that we would allow otherwise.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, I guess, yeah, I wouldn't see somebody build some sort of commercial storefronts on the bottom and offices over the top down there.
Not just obscuring views.
Yeah.
Well, they're not gonna allow us anyway, the river.
Well, the height requirement's 35 feet.
Pardon me?
The
35?
35 is the max. All the way to Old Saybrook Road.
And plus, I don't even know with floodplain and stuff where they'd be, it's 13 feet above high tide.
You know, a thing like Blue War there would be neat, or the
Right,
one
I
down the
agree.
Deep River, or something like that. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So you're thinking we can hammer out both of these?
I'm thinking actually 3, right? So this is just my thought. That you would have this river, Connecticut River Zone or whatever for these parcels here. I would recommend that you leave the marina commercial. And just leave it be as it is. I like the idea that everyone's talked about, sort of this block being village district, you know, with this remaining industrial. And then I think the question is, how do we address these properties here? They're zoned residential, you can leave them residential. You can zone them village district, or you could come up with a third option. And I'm not trying to overcomplicate it, but something that would allow, I'll call it cottage industry. Basically the conversion of those dwellings into office space or small retail.
I should have read this. But what do our regs say now about home occupation and that type of stuff in a residential zone?
We allow them, but it's limited by percentage. So you're not allowed to use more than 25% of the building for a home occupation, even if you
Right.
have a permitted home occupation. So it's pretty limiting.
So, for the time being, isn't that restrictive enough? I mean, I guess unless somebody wanted to, well, you couldn't, I guess the point I'm making is you couldn't tear one of those houses down to put up a Butler building and
No, you could not.
the way it's zoned right now, according to our reg, I think we can deal with those 3 or 4 lots at a later date.
Okay.
Or extend the riverfront district all the way up to the
I wouldn't.
village district.
I don't think that makes,
I actually like Ed's idea of, I mean, our home occupation regulations are not great. It would be nice to expand those. And, you know, maybe as a special permit, you can do, I don't know, a dwelling conversion or something, or first floor conversion
right,
to an office or something, and that would be a good space for it.
we don't need to do that now.
I agree.
Isn't it covered under the village regs anyway?
You know, that wouldn't be, those lots wouldn't be in the village.
These are zoned residential, they would stay residential.
Like, well, just for example, people could extend their boundary of the village to encompass those houses. Wasn't there a provision in there that said they could be turned residential dwelling into a mixed use thing, make the first floor commercial and make
Yes.
the second floor?
But you can also do a lot of other things. You know,
Can you leave it out, you mean, or?
no, if you leave it in the village district here, okay, what you're saying is You can have a dwelling here, but you could also develop it. So Liberty Bank could come in for a special permit, ask to tear down the dwelling in this location and put in a bank, or a restaurant, or an office building. Because those, as we have it now, would be village district type uses. And I would question whether or not, I mean, I guess it's, you know, this is the part that's up for debate. Do you want this to stay residential? Do you want this to be commercial? And if you want it to be commercial, what level of intensity?
I think it should stay residential.
Makes them, they would have to see the changes.
And you're also putting a burden on the current occupants. If they want to sell it as a residence, it's a lot harder for them to sell.
It is harder for them to get well,
It is.
Well,
village district's a little bit different, but yes, if it was zoned commercial, it would be harder for them to get a loan.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
it's
why, let's leave well enough alone for right now.
The downside to them is knowing that their neighbor might be turned into something else in their house and their regular businesses.
But actually, the line is pretty demarcated. I mean, so right now, the line is Dunkin' Donuts. The house next to it is, I know it has apartments in it. I don't know if it's owner occupied, but it's actually a good transition as it currently stands.
Where's 85 Bridge?
It's right where the cursor is now.
What's the next one? The next one's the one that just went commercial?
No, that's always been, that's the hotel project.
This is a hotel, it was industrial, and now it's commercial,
We just changed it to commercial.
correct?
I do know the one right next to it, he wants to go commercial.
Well, and that's the problem, everyone, it's, you know, everyone's gonna, you know,
If they're commercial, then it's protected from being, and Stevie Fest, we would discuss this a week ago. What was it that protected some of the houses from being,
well, if it's village district, there's a provision in the village district that says they have to apply for a special permit to this commission. So there's a trade-off. So for
we
example,
wouldn't be getting a lot of what we had this past year where some,
We only have one.
that one house that a lot of people are upset that got torn down would become more difficult to tear down.
Just real quick, to make
Would
this.
we have public comments after this discussion?
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
Please, yeah. So my other question is, how much of this is visible from the river or gateway?
well, it's all in the gateway.
Yeah, but I mean, I know that anything visible in gateway has regulations as far as colors, et cetera, so we're aware that there's all kinds of things. So anything that you can see from the river.
But all of this is in the gateway conservation
I
zone.
understand it, but anything visible in the gateway, it's again has to be, don't quote me on the colors they have, but I know we went through that when I was on the little cruise around the river. That there's certain colors that they recommend and certain trees that can be. So when we're doing all these regulations, we have to keep that in mind.
Let them apply, special permits or whatever. We're not trying to say this is commercial residential.
Okay, so, one of the things that I had heard previously, and the reason I bring up this section is there's some historic properties here. Right now, if somebody wanted to tear down a house, they could come in, apply for a demolition permit, and they could build another house. What I'm hearing is that maybe this area should be, remain residential. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
For now.
For now, I mean, and we just address it in the future.
We haven't had any input from homeowners that area besides,
No, but everyone got a letter in February, but
yeah.
not necessarily to say your property, but
Here's what I would like to see happen. The village district, we get nice regulations and we start to get some development. And the riverfront, same thing, we get nice regulations. But in between, it's just left to individual homeowners devices. And that could turn into anything.
Well, it's not anything that's allowed in the residential district.
Correct, well, they could knock down all the houses and
And put up another house. I mean, there really isn't an incentive for them to knock down their house unless they could put something else there.
Well, and they could come in front of us and start asking for zone change to commercial.
They could.
And that would not be subject to village regulations because it's not specifically in the district.
So, I mean, well, anyone could do that now, but any one of these properties could come in and request a zoning change to any zone, commercial, village district, industrial.
right, and then it would be left up to the whim of those homeowners or the current commission. It would just not be a plan.
You couldn't apply the regulations if we don't have, if it's not part of the village district.
Correct.
Right, and can it be a third?
It could, and that's,
And then it's historic village district. And keep it residential, but keep it under the umbrella of some control.
Because you keep it residential with the provision that if you want to change the zoning, then the option is to some village district or something. So it's-
well, that would make sense because it would abut villages. You can't break that into the regulations. All right, so what I'm hearing is, right now, that people are not unhappy with the way that this area is. I think that if this were the village district, this pink chunk, see how that develops and grows, and if there's justification for expansion and this becomes very dense, and there's good reason to consider expanding it, that's something that the commission could look at 5 or 10 years down the road. What that does mean then is if this says residential, that the houses, the dwellings that are there now, the process, if somebody wants to take them down, is they would come to the land use office, they would request a demolition permit. If the property was subject to the demolition delay ordinance, it would have a 120-day waiting period, and Haddam Historical Society or the town, or anybody else could approach them in terms of trying to save the structure, buy the structure, whatever. But it would, these houses are gonna be in the same situation that the Wool Connection was in, the Shaler Banning house. You can only do what you can do. I don't think that that's bad. I'm just pointing that out, that that's one of the consequences of leaving that alone.
And for the time being, I think that's fine.
Okay. Last question. This is, I know some people don't like talking about this, but this is zone commercial.
Leave it for now.
Okay.
Same with the residential up on the hill. It's a different animal.
Okay, so now we've got 2 zones. We've got the village district and a river district. And I think we have a pretty good idea of what the difference between the two. Do we want to allow residential in this?
No. I'm not sure it would be allowed anyway.
Well, you're creating the zone, you're writing it, so.
Well, that's a flood zone, it wouldn't allow a house down.
Well, no, because all that down there is all,
That was already there. They wouldn't allow a house to be built there.
You could, you'd have to elevate it out of the floodplain, so that means it would basically be on stilts,
Well, then,
which is another reason to maybe not allow it.
Gateway wouldn't allow it.
Gateway has to allow it if it is in the floodplain.
They do it all the time down on the shore. The houses are all 15 feet off the ground.
Well, I stand on no residential.
me too.
He's got a lot more value than,
Yeah.
to the whole area.
I'm
Taking a house
if we wanted it to be a,
Tourist
kind of
area.
thing,
Right.
yeah. I mean,
And the majority of it's state-owned anyway.
yeah, and I don't think the state's giving that help. I mean, when it was privately held, it probably would have been awesome some sort of condos and timeshare and everything there, but.
So if we have that as our riverfront district and we put in some uses and regulations in the state on there, stuff that they want to do something, do they have to get any permission from us? Or state rules?
State does not have to get permission from us, but the state does look at the state plan of conservation and development, the town plan of conservation and development, and they will look at our zoning maps.
So they would take into consideration.
Yeah, and that's shown as conservation on most maps. So what you're saying is some light commercial that would support river activity,
River and rail.
river and rail activity. Okay. That's easy.
A band shell or whatever, something that contributes to riverway. The beach would need to have near riverway. We could put a Gelston House West over there. A beer garden west. Is it called a beer garden? Still called the beer garden?
I mean, at the,
Oh, Gelston, yeah.
Yeah, so we got a beer garden west. And the marina, why would you not want that in our district? What if we wanted to change it? Have a huge building there.
Well, all right, so let's talk about that. We could.
It's not that he wouldn't be able to, it would just be under a little.
I think you should leave it alone.
The way, when we were initially talking about this, we had a provision for marinas that fronted on the river, that basically allowed, boat storage, slips, and things that go with marinas. It doesn't specifically call out things like construction equipment or dry dock storage, but it would be defined as such, so.
Well, I don't mean to have him have to remove his seasonal storage and seasonal equipment stuff.
No,
Just-
he shouldn't.
Right.
And under the way the regulations are drafted, he wouldn't.
Doesn't have to adjust to the new
Right, but if he, say he wanted to build a 30,000 square foot indoor boat storage, public building like we're putting on 81, or 81. What if he wanted to do that? Do we want him to just automatically be able to do that? I'm asking the question, that's all.
And if it's zone commercial, he would be able to,
Would Gateway allow that? Who knows?
I don't know what would trigger their review of it, because it has to be a variance, a special permit, or a dwelling over 4,000 square feet. Those are the three things that go to Gateway.
A dwelling, not a building.
Correct.
So 30,000 square, I don't even know if there's room. But just being hypothetical anyway.
changes here in the future.
Right, and it ceases to become a marina.
So then they could come in and ask for a zone change. Or,
Commercial, isn't it?
right now it's zone commercial. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not suggesting changing the zoning, I'm just suggesting putting it under the, whatever regulations we have down there.
okay, so either the river district or the village district.
And it would really just come down to art review if he does a major building or renovation or something. And it's, I
Okay.
don't think it would be bad. I'm sure I'll get some comments on that.
Yes, you will.
Well, I'd be interested in it. I don't know anything about that business. And where's the Goodspeed station? next to it, but that's
Yeah,
not commercial.
Yeah, it's, that's it,
That
right
little
there,
piece
the
there.
tiny little thing right there.
And the same with that.
Yeah, I agree.
If that building falls down, he wants to put a public building,
Yeah, well, what I would say is with the river district, you allow marinas,
correct.
recreational boat use, uses, accessory to river and train uses,
Yeah,
and recreational uses, and essentially call them out. So, in that scenario, Andrews Marina could do everything that it does now. It could anyway, 'cause it's not conforming, but I mean, that use would be,
But a new building would run for fall under art review?
it would.
of a certain size, and that's what we have in Hingham. A building of a certain size or an addition of a certain size goes under art review.
So it's kind of self-regulating.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't think they're dictating and going up there, so.
Correct. There you go.
What about, the River House? That would be village district, kind of with this?
It seems odd they have that one little thing in there, but I guess the same argument goes for the marina. If they decide to put a substantial addition, don't we want to keep that in harmony with the rest of the village? So that would be a reason to put that in the village.
I agree. Okay. So I have an idea of the boundaries, so what I'll do is I will draft up some maps for next time, and we can discuss that.
Yeah, one thing, big question about the boundaries.
What else do we ask if there's any?
What else we know?
And a couple of other things, hold on. Let me. Okay, I just wanted to show this to you. And this isn't exactly how it would read, but the idea here is that, so right now in the village district at Higganum, you allow modifications. So if people are rehabbing historic property, they're doing something, a project that is within the character of the village, that is sensitive to the properties around it, they can come in and ask for a modification. They don't have to go through a variance process. They can modify the standards to allow for more development on the lot. In Higganum, we allow them to go up in height, lot coverage, parking, et cetera, et cetera. So what I would recommend is that you have the same type of modification process, so they don't have to go to ZBA. They can address this all to planning and zoning. And if they want to have additional lot coverage or density or reduced setbacks, they can come to you and you could vary that up to 50%.
If they're gonna create that bylaw.
Right, so this first one, basically, what I was thinking, this is up for discussion, but this would be for people who create B streets or lanes or the, side roads, or if they are preserving, reusing, or rehabilitating a historic structure in the village.
Do we need to define historic structures? Is that outlined somewhere?
Well, historic structure is usually anything that is,
I was just curious.
Well, you don't, because it's something that is subjective. Anything that is older than 50 years technically is historic, but that's not the intent of this regulation. The idea is historic buildings, historic houses. But I think that that is clear in that, it's clear because it's not about rehabbing a Butler building or a metal structure. I'm gonna send this section to Brant's just to get some clarification. So this would get reworded, but this is the general idea.
Get spell check.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Did you have anything else? I'd just like to take comments on the boundaries.
We can stop there. I have, I wanted to just talk about the design guidelines, but let's take comments first and then talk about the design guidelines.
Okay, with regard to the boundaries, does anybody have any questions, comments?
I just have a comment. I agree with leaving that residential area. If you do want a successful, village zone developed, if you do change that, I think it would be easier for people to try and convert along Ridge Street versus keeping that focus in the areas that were outlined in Pat's little map there. Also, I have a question, and this may be just a lack of knowledge on my part. You're talking about rezoning. Isn't everything that's currently zoned grandfather? Am I misunderstanding the definition of the word grandfather?
It is a rezoning because it is, the zoning district would change from commercial to village. So that is a zoning classification, it's a district change.
Okay,
So there'd be a formal process, there'd be maps that would be created,
which I understand.
property owners would get letters.
And so what is the definition of grandfather then? Then that wouldn't apply to us?
It would.
So how would we be grandfathered
You mean
if
your
we're
use?
currently zoned?
Okay,
If you
so
did any changes
currently,
to your
currently
building.
you're zoned commercial,
Correct.
and you have a zoning permit on Mike's Auto, right?
Correct.
Yes. And
Okay. So I think
auto,
you're worried about the use.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about everything at this point.
So in other words,
What
could
the
you,
future holds, I'm worried about.
could you sell the building as
And
an
it would
auto
all-
repair business, and it
could
would
we
stay
s-
that way? Is that what you want to
Well,
know?
yes, of course.
yeah, so any use that is legal today, permanent use that is legal today in the commercial district
Yep.
would be grandfathered in. So automotive repair is a permitted use, it's a special permit.
Okay.
Special permits run with the land, you have one on your property for that use. And it would run with that land. Now, and let's say somebody, this changed to village district, and somebody bought your lot 10 years from now, and they also bought the blue house next to you,
Mhm.
and they wanted to expand. They would have to get another special permit to
Okay.
expand a non-conforming use.
Within the current village district.
Correct.
The new,
Okay. So
regulation.
if Mike's Auto stands as is, and someone by some miracle wants to buy it, someone wants to sell, and they want to use it for that purpose, there's
No
no
restriction.
restriction, it's just, yeah.
You're good
Okay.
to go.
Now, what if we wanted to revamp our back, there's a little garage in the back, and we wanted to, and I'm just thinking out loud, not really much thought going into this at this point. We wanted to put an extra service bay or something to help, offset the oil changes that come through our facility. How would that be handled, in the village, the new village regulations, or the grandfathered current use?
Both. First, it's going to depend on whether or not the village regulations allow the use. And that's something that we haven't really hammered out yet. But so if village districts do not allow automotive repair in them, then it would be a grandfathered use and you'd be coming in for an expansion.
Okay.
Because you're
Within the
not
current
currently
property.
using that shed for your business. as I understand
It's
it.
storage, yeah, it's not a, I mean, it is in use, but not
Well,
as
maybe
a
that brings
service
up
bag.
a point, that these regs should address expansion of a current business under its current use.
I mean, assuming it fits
You know what
in
I'm,
with
you
the
know what I'm
building
saying, like, in other
size.
words, if they did want to expand, we're making it so you can, you just have to match our.
Which I don't think anyone sitting here is opposed to, making things look villagey and.
You should
Yeah.
have some kind of rule saying if you're gonna build something, it's gonna have to look like this if you want to do
Well,
it.
that's what
Right,
we're
right, I mean,
gonna.
I don't think there's
That's
a
what
single
we're-
person
That ARC
that will
is.
argue that.
So maybe we need that in there, that a current business that predates this can expand its current use by special permit.
Or, I mean, I don't really want to get into specific uses too much, but it may be that with the design standards that we have, that automotive repair is a special permit in the village districts, just as it is in the commercial districts, because we have the design guidelines and it is going to control to a certain degree. It's going to prevent what it is that we don't want, which is, you know, the signage and the,
The Route 1 of where.
storage and things
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Good?
Yep, thank you. Thanks.
Like your best. Go ahead.
Question.
Oh, just name, for the record.
Donna Torres. I have two questions. If we're looking at state-owned property along the river, does the town have authority to say what's going on state-owned property?
No. But we still have a responsibility for a zoning district.
Okay,
So we have to have it zoned something.
okay. Okay, and currently you said it is zoned
Commercial.
commercial, so the Eagle Landing and all of that. But that's state-owned, so we can't really develop that. Is that correct?
No. Yes, that is correct, because it's owned by the state.
Right.
It's up to the state what they want to do with it. I think everyone remembers the land swap.
Oh, yes.
So the state will ultimately make that determination.
Yeah, okay. My next comment is I really would hate to see more homes demolished. And that's my stand, as far as I would like to see what is residential, stay residential. My vision of what a village looks like has some residential in it. And to make it look like a village. You can have commercial, you can have industrial, but I think that it's important to still have those, the homes that are still left. And some of them are very beautiful, and I would hate to see them demolished. So I'd like to see that remain residential.
Can I make a comment to that? Which is, I mean, I would hate to see them torn down as well, but it may not be for this commission to manage that. That might be for the Haddam Historical Society, or for another organization, a Historic District Society, or something to take that charge on in terms of the preservation and protection of,
We tried to do that, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish.
no,
Yeah, we tried to do that with the Shaler Banning House. The Historical Society does not have the money to buy properties. You know, we just kind of go along with the best that we can. And so I would just hate to see, I would like to see the commission at least understand that, this is a historic town, and I'd like to see historic homes stay standing.
Can you refresh my memory again? I thought I just kind of didn't read, this has come up a couple times now at meetings, that if those houses were to fall in that C1 zone, no, they're still into something zone,
Yeah, so
Then
these
they would
houses
be
here
more protected from being torn down.
in the village district, but what I heard consensus about was to leave this alone and let it stay residential.
Okay, so if they're not in, so if they were in the village zone, they would be protected, and if they're not in the village zone, they're not as protected,
Correct.
just so you're aware of that.
What is the historic district designation, Michelle? Is that something that goes through us, or?
I'm not actually sure. It would be, so any municipality can create a village district or historic district. And the village district regulations have provisions for a historical board to be the review agency instead of, you know, an architect or ARC. In our case, we have a board. Yeah, so it would have to be designated as a historic district or a village district. I know, Patrick wants to say something. He knows more about this than I do.
A point of clarification, the village district concept was invented in 1998 precisely in order to have an easier way of designating historic areas and controlling them. What you need to establish an historic district is a 2/3 vote of the property owners. What you need to do to establish a village district is a lesser standard. I think it's just a simple majority of the P&Z Commission. So it's a lower bar to cross. Once that bar is crossed, the regulations are yours to write as strictly as you want. So you could, if you passed another variety of village district for the residential area, you could stipulate that they must all have square nail heads. You can go to that degree of precision in it. So it is within your P&Z Commission's right, if you want to undertake that task, to really control the security of the historic buildings there.
We could, without too much trouble, that residential area between the two, the river and the village, make that a residential village. Name it whatever you want, and only give it ARC and the additional demolition protection, and don't do anything else. For now.
Yeah, but do we need to tackle that right now? Can't we?
But it's as simple as I just said.
And I
Well, and wait a minute, before we tackle something like that, I think we're only talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 houses.
Four
I
lots.
think 4 houses, I don't know on the other side of the street, but I think there's only 4 houses because that larger lot with 2 houses, that's a one level ranch. That's definitely not older than the 60s or 50s.
What's the other building?
The one on the corner of Campside Little Bridge, that's old. And then going towards Dunkin' Donuts, there's like a red house and then a yellow one with the front porch, and then the one with the vinyl siding right next to it. So I think we're only talking about 4 houses right there. 4 lots. You know,
You go all the way down to
but going down Campside Little Bridge, those are all,
So hypothetically speaking, if someone were to tear down the ranch or whatever it is, and they wanted to put up a new house, would you want that to then be subject to historic district regulations? Would you want that to look like it was a historic building? Just throwing a question out.
I'm not even going that far.
oh, I see what you're saying, we make them put up a historic looking house.
I'm not suggesting that it becomes a historic
I'm just
district. I'm just suggesting that it
You might not even get that anyway.
comes under ARC and the additional demolition protection.
All I'm saying is, we need to get the village district that we just mapped out done and over with design guidelines. Then tackle the residential village with a different set of design guidelines when we're done with this.
Like, right after.
Right after, I don't care.
That's
And
fine. That's
I
fine.
agree with Ed, because for this area here, there's
My
no
plate is
place,
full.
no place in town do we regulate residential, basically what a residential house looks like and whether or not you can tear it down, unless it's in the village district. So,
And, just to put this out there, we may wanna, and I don't know how we would do this, but we may wanna do the residential village district to cover the 4 little houses we're talking about now, and probably most of Saybrook Road. Right?
yeah,
All, in other words, Shalerville. So I'm saying, let's just stop talking about these 4 little houses for tonight.
And to add to Ed's point, I think we gotta identify the specific parcels, because I'm gonna tell you right now, that spot right there that you're talking about, minus those 4 houses, you wanna build a 50-unit hotel, that's the only spot in town. Right there, all those 6, 8, 10 houses, right there. You, probably $1.2 million, you buy them all, $1.4 million. You put up a hotel.
it's just
We've
like-
got word-
I'm just saying for the time being, as soon as we
I agree.
get this,
I agree.
the design guidelines established for the Tylerville Village, and we can go right back into this residential village, it's gonna be different design guidelines.
All right,
So let's
I agree.
tackle it at
I agree.
Okay, so, yes, I'm
Back
gonna
on
stick
track.
with questions regarding the village
Yeah, where's the marina stand right now? You guys were throwing a lot of.
closing it.
So are you talking village, are you talking riverfront, you talking about leaving it alone, commercial?
I think what I heard was riverfront, and the riverfront is gonna have a marina provision in it. Because obviously marinas are gonna be on the river.
So, okay, because
And your grandfather.
I'm not really understanding the grandfather term though. I'm not, you said grandfather, but you have to follow the terms of, when you're referring to the village. The village is one that really scares me because you're talking about you can have 6 canoes and stuff. We have 20-something boats on land sometimes. People bring them down, leave them down there. It's a marina.
Dave, we're just the boundaries. We'll get to that part that you're talking about, the canoe counts and uses at the next meeting.
Keep me out of the village. I don't want to be in the village. I don't want those
Marina
guidelines.
district?
Yeah,
Your
I mean,
grandfather.
but I
Let's
thought
not
it
get
was.
into individual properties or this is gonna turn
We just
into,
explained that.
let's
over
just
here.
get big,
Their
broader
grandfather.
concepts.
Okay. I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
You're probably better off being in a riverfront
Yeah.
district for your,
Boundary questions or comments?
We're not trying to restrict any existing
Boundary
businesses.
questions or comments?
Okay.
I think we accomplished something. And 8 o'clock. What else do we have?
Okay, so I handed out some draft design guidelines. What I did is I took the Higginham design guidelines and I made them Tylerville, Tylerville appropriate.
Yep.
So that everyone understands guidelines aren't mandatory anything, it's a guideline, it's a standard, it's a suggestion. I would like everyone to take those home and go through them. And either email me your comments or come back to the next meeting with comments.
Did you send these to us?
I did not.
We did not send it by email because we didn't want Facebook and Twitter and MySpace to get inundated. And the comments to fly and then rumors to fly and then town hall.
I would rather have the commission sort of vet them before they hit the public.
okay.
One thing that I want to point out that Jamin was already teasing me about, can you use a second? On the last page,
Last page.
so on the second to last page, it talks about signage, and it's preferred types of signage, and then it talks about types of signage we want and don't want. This picture of the car is supposed to be an example of signage that we want. Essentially, the signage that's whimsical and artistic and it's kind of, different. So it's not meant to be
It just, when I looked at it, I said.
It looks like it's-
On old cars,
yeah.
we're discouraging that sign, and then she said.
It's your
"That's
page
not-
break
that's not
there."
right."
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So signs that are discouraged are the four bullet points.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I need to reformat the document a little bit anyway.
it's a good thing you didn't put this out on.
Yeah, because that would have been the first thing.
Yeah, but this is like the tractor.
I would have,
Right?
well.
I love the tractor. In fact, I'm gonna get a picture of it.
So do I.
It's still 32 square feet, right?
Yes.
Right.
And the only problem with that car is it's bigger than 32 square feet.
Not the top, not the top.
Actually, it isn't.
Signage,
I,
but
I don't know, what I'm asking is what the dimensions, do we know what dimensions of that car are?
why are we
Say
saying
no
that?
cars designed?
Okay,
Yes.
Mars, cubic feet.
Huh?
The other issue is it's an unregistered vehicle, we're not allowed to have an unregistered vehicle on the lot, so we got.
No, that's not true. You can have up to two unregistered vehicles
In the village district?
anywhere in town.
Let's do it.
Up to 2.
It's in the regs.
Okay, we're being a little silly there.
Okay.
We got this to do for homework, read it,
Comment on it.
on.
Then, next meeting, okay, so next Thursday is the 5th. And you are gonna have your 85 Ridge Road. You all have new plans.
He's here.
I have looked at them, I will have comments for you. At this point, my only objection is that the parking is not to the side and rear, there's still parking to the front, but, so you you have until the 19th to make a decision, but I'm hoping that the hearing will get closed and you'll all make a decision next Thursday. I'm ticking on that one.
And this is actually complete. What time is it?
Regular time, 7 o'clock.
So we're not allowed to talk about this now.
No.
Um,
Do we want to talk at all about uses? Okay.
So we.
I mean, we're gonna have to address,
So we have some people.
Can I'd like to ask one question when Jim is done.
Sorry, just curious.
well,
What was your question? We have till April 19th to wrap all of this up.
Oh, yeah.
and inspect our own regs. So it's not a lot of time.
If June 7th is the date we're shooting for, we have to wrap up that.
Well, yeah, we're trying to shoot for June 7th. It still gives us 1 month of
I mean, you could have both of your June meetings dedicated to this, because you'll have a second meeting in June as well.
Well,
And then you can take July stuff.
what, we're opening the other hearing this Thursday, or next Thursday?
So this Thursday, we've got 85 Bridge Road. I'd like your comments on the design guidelines so that I can put those on the web. I will have the boundaries for everyone. And then I would recommend that you have a meeting on April 12th, which is the following Thursday. And we really need to nail down the use chart at that time.
Can I question about the use? It has to do with drive-throughs, drive-ins. Every time I mention them, but I only mention them now in terms of these B roads. Is that still just a no across the board for everybody here?
On B roads?
B roads, these back,
Drive-throughs.
correct. Fast food on the B roads.
Listen, I think the drive-throughs, I go to another town that has them, Clinton, and they have them by special permit. And they did them by special permit for a reason. So if you're trying to put a drive-through on some little 20 by 50 lot, and you're gonna use Route 1 as your queue up, it's not happening.
Well,
And I think it should be by special permit, that gives us any.
but not allow them on the state roads.
No, I think it should be by special permit anywhere in that village district.
I don't, okay, I disagree with that.
As a blanket statement or specific to
Mm.
only
As a
certain
blanket
type?
I
type of
just
drive-throughs?
disagree with that, because then you could possibly get 5 or 6 drive-throughs on Bridge Road, and we don't want, I don't think we want that. It would just look like heck, it would not be a village.
Well, it discourages walkability and,
Right.
and not only that, but if somebody's visiting the Gilston house and they wanna, that's not gonna draw them to Haddam. What's gonna draw them to Haddam is unique businesses, like, you know, one-off establishments that you can't find anywhere else. Like, you can go anywhere on the state, find McDonald's, but, you know, we wanna pull them into town and get them to stay there based on the other unique offerings that we have. That's just my opinion.
I agree there.
What if, for the drive-through, I mean, it sounds like everyone's on the same page with banks and pharmacies, like there doesn't seem to be objection to that. So really, what we're wrestling with is the drive-through restaurants. What if the drive-through itself, so they're gonna be subject to the design guidelines, they're gonna be subject to a special permit, and the drive aisle is to be to the rear, or, you know, screened from state highways.
Can you explain to me one thing about special permit? So, let me make a scenario that a special permit comes in for, Starbucks, and they're granted the special permit. Taco Bell comes and says, they're doing pretty good. They have another lot bigger. Are we kind of in a bind to say no, yes, or can we say no? If they do all the same things that the first did, Starbucks did.
You can't deny them because you feel that we have enough fast food, but you could deny them because, I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same because it's going to be the next thing on the road. So you could say the traffic doesn't work, the traffic patterns have changed, and that due to the traffic exiting from Starbucks, it is going to impact the ability for Taco Bell to come in. And you should really be looking at each application based on its merits.
Yes.
But you can take into, for special permits, it gives the commission a lot of discretion. So you can look at things like market studies. You can demand from them, show me that this is gonna be successful. Where are you getting your traffic from, and how is this going to be successful? And how is the traffic going to be safe and not impact negatively the area?
Can this commission hold them responsible for cleanup? What I mean by that is litter, which I know is statistically follows food and beverage drive-thrus.
Just the refuge handling, we can.
Well, I'm just throwing that out, because that's one of my big concerns. People are dumping money and making their buildings look really nice, and the businesses all care about it.
Planning and zoning doesn't.
That's what I'm just saying, I've got to ask.
I mean, it becomes an enforcement issue, but it's very hard, and a health issue. And maybe the state health code is probably stronger than our own enforcement regulations. So if they have food refuse all over the place, and then you're getting into vermin and animals and stuff like that, then.
Rappers, I'm just talking rappers, citing other zoning boards that have had issues, and that's one of the excuses, because of the litter and
So what I would say to the commission is, if litter is a concern, then you make sure that they have a dumpster area that is screened from view and fenced in.
We talked about that already.
Right, we do that on
So,
both.
Right.
when 85, when they exit the drive-through,
And they throw the stuff on.
and they get on Bridge Street, the wrapper goes out the window and the burger goes in the mouth. It's on Bridge Street, it's not.
We have
by the
nothing to do with
dumpster.
that.
That's what I'm saying is, that's kind of, I know, I just asking a question.
So you asked, just asking, you said we can't deny just because we already have another. We can if we limit the number of food establishment drive-throughs in that area. We can limit it to 2. We can limit it to 1.
You could, if it, in the
You can.
village district,
You
you
can do
can.
that.
All right, we already
No.
have 2
Right,
food establishment drive-throughs
I
in the
agree.
village district.
So the thing I,
And that's by special permit,
Yes,
and the special permit runs with
the land.
So if Dunkin' Donuts wants to sell to McDonald's, we get the McDonald's with the drive-through anyway.
correct. So the thing I
So
did
I
last week,
think, to your point, we leave it at 2.
and that, right, because we already have them, we can't do anything about
We
those.
can't do anything about
But in the back, in the B roads, what is wrong with having drive-throughs back there?
I don't disagree, I don't agree, I think there's a lot to digest.
I think, I mean,
But we did twice as much tonight as we did the last 2 meetings. We limited all the comments, and I'm digesting a lot. And seeing Patrick Pinnell's ideas and stuff. So I'm gonna digest this stuff a little bit. I'm not gonna tell you yes or no, but I'm not adverse to it. But I'm not pro it either.
I don't know where I stand, but I lean towards no.
No drive.
No drive-throughs.
Period.
If I had my way, yes, but I think the consensus seems to be yes to pharmacies and ATMs, although I do think you can do without those. If we absolutely must have drive-throughs in the village district, I really, really feel strongly that they should not be on either of the state roads, fronting either of the state roads.
I think somebody realized, if we do what you guys are talking about, you just made Dunkin' Donuts, you made Liberty Bank, and you made the other gas station so valuable, and you killed all the other properties' value to a degree.
But
Just
when
like I just
they,
said, no matter what, you're gonna get it down.
Not if you allow B road drive-throughs.
But if that Dunkin' Donuts, if McDonald's says we're coming to Tylerville, and oh, we can't have drive-throughs, they're gonna look at Dunkin' Donuts and say, $2 million, $3 million. At some point, the Dunkin' Donuts owner's gonna go, I'm out, because I still got my other store over there. In fact, I'm just gonna open up a store over here that has no drive-through. I think you special permit, just the leeways.
Can we also make walkability a chief criteria for approving things in the village district? Because I think if you have some sort of a guideline that says walkability is a key reason for having this area, then that gives us a reason to say no to a drive-through if it's going to decrease walkability. I think that's.
And the design guidelines talk about that, and that would be a
Talk
good,
about it, yeah.
that would be a justification. Let's say you got an application in and you felt that it was detrimental
Right.
for a number of reasons. And one of them was walkability. You could deny it based on,
Introducing a huge gray area, but that's okay. Yes.
It was.
A huge gray area.
well, that's what makes special permits unique. Okay, so let's,
I'm not saying that's bad.
let's shift gears a little. I haven't heard consensus, but I've got some ideas that we can come up with a couple of different ideas and talk about them some more. What about prohibited uses in the village district? For example, I had put cell towers because I was concerned that somebody would literally put a cell tower right next to the merchant house or in the Tylerville Village parking lot or on the Brooks property. Cell towers are exempt from the gateway height restriction, but there is an airport nearby, so the likelihood of us getting one that's taller than 100 feet is unlikely, but that would still be pretty big.
Already a site approved. somewhere, I'm not exactly sure where it is, but it's in Tylerville.
Somebody has a lease.
Where is that?
I actually don't know. I mean, I've heard the merchant house, it is Lisa.
Lisa Watch, yeah.
Tylerville
There's
Village.
already, why would there be another one? Because it would be on the Brooks property, not even that close. Side Bridge Road, or, but there's already a site.
So what I'm saying to you is, do you want a big cell tower on,
No.
I don't understand.
We didn't approve a cell site.
Yes, the town did, 3 of them.
no, 2 of them on town property. The one in Tylerville is,
Is not approved yet?
No, there's the one up here on,
Private
Jail
property
Hill,
is not.
Jail Hill, and then the firehouse.
and
that one's not
the
approved?
siting, the siting council hasn't approved any of them.
Okay.
The town had a town meeting approving those 2 sites. But it still would have to go
But not
through
the
siting
one in
council, special permit, all this other stuff.
But
The
not-
one in, yeah,
Okay, I thought it was.
And how much space does a cell tower take up on the ground?
not much.
20 by 20,
Yeah, it's minimal.
it's not a lot.
More than 20 by 20.
You,
So a generator.
you don't think that,
I mean, it's a problem,
But
there's
it's
a
not
problem
very
with
big.
cell
30 by
coverage down
30 by-
there.
It's just not very big. Pardon me?
There's a problem with cell coverage down there, so there is definitely the need.
huge problem.
But
I'd rather see
they're
it behind the
extremely
merchant.
unattractive.
I don't like to see it in my opinion, in the district at all, but behind the merchant house,
Like up on the building?
up on the hill, you really gotta look for it to see it, so.
Well,
If it had to be down there,
Tree, tree.
yeah,
That's
they
something
need
they're
trees.
required for.
Well, supposedly this guy said that that's what we're coming, supposed to
A
get.
tree.
A tree?
If you went to that meeting at the firehouse, the town meeting.
I thought that we didn't approve the location time ago.
I agree, but they said, no, they said the ones that are on town property, I think he said that they're gonna look something like a tree, they're not gonna look like a.
They are.
Is it loud, like the machinery that has
No,
to go, is
just
it
one of
loud
those,
at all?
like,
You get a generator to come on the power outage.
Well, and it cycles on probably once a month just to make sure everything's working.
But it's not, the decibels are not off, not high, because someone asked that question.
And are there any
So-
health issues?
No,
I mean, I'm not.
The- no. That's to be debated, but
Unless you
the
jump the fence and start climbing it.
the US Department of Health has determined that there are none.
Yeah.
So your question is, do we want to deny it all?
Do we want to prohibit them, or do we want to
Just,
leave them as is?
just in the village district.
Just in the village district?
Oh. Just in the village district, and then, so outside of,
All right, so, well,
Property
hang
behind
on,
Merchant
hang on.
House?
Now,
That's in the village district.
It is, right?
we didn't include the Saber Haddam in the village.
We did.
I never did.
We did?
Yeah.
We do,
It's just the farm at the other side of it.
yeah, that's three.
Oh, I thought that that was part of it. I thought we had agreed that all of this is the
The
farm,
farm property would be?
yeah, because it's currently zoned commercial.
I want to save the farm.
Okay, all right, well then, all right, see, that's not, see, the Saber Haddam goes all the way back to Camp Bethel Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, lot
No, this is a residential lot in the back.
But
And that would
it's
be part of
same
the
piece
village district, yes.
It would
They
be.
own both pieces.
So that would be or wouldn't be?
It would not be subject to the village district.
All right, then that's fine with me, they can put it right there. Right over the leaching fields. And that solves everybody's problem. We get cell service in Tylerville.
Yeah, I don't think, what does the property owner think about that?
It doesn't matter, let Pete Carlson put it on his property, it doesn't matter. We need cell service, and if we're just keeping it out of the village district, I'm fine with that, but it needs to go somewhere.
So Liz, you're telling me that cell towers, the gateway doesn't have a problem with them?
they're
They have no jurisdiction.
They do review them, but they don't tend to
Right.
have an objection to them because they're a necessity.
Because I can just explain, yes, and I understand it, and I'm not gonna even approach that. But we should be aware that one of the gateway focuses is what the gateway zone looks like from the other side of the river. Right on down to how high up you cut your trees, your limbs of your tree. Don't cut the tree, but you can clear up so much if you want to view. What color you're going to do your house? You're going to do a tan, a brown, or green? Please, no bright colors. They don't hold you to it, but they strongly suggest. So they want to, they're trying to be the good neighbor supervisor. So is that going to be, who's across the river? Is Chris Dodd going to have a problem looking at that? I'm just saying, is it fair to him or whoever is also over there? Because that's kind of what the whole Gateway's focus is. That's their philosophy. Right? You've been on that river cruise, so they point out, see what they did here, see what they did there.
If we disallow it in the village, we have no control if they put it somewhere else. It's not us. They do it outside the village.
No, but for
What
us,
do we have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, they could just turn to the state and say, hey, we'll put it over here in the state piece.
to encourage that as a location.
In the village or not, you're gonna be subject to the gateway regulations, I mean,
Right.
to the same degree, I mean.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is why are we encouraging it there when they can't move it a little bit farther back,
Oh.
82?
I don't think we're encouraging it there. It just happens that they could put it there if they wanted to. They could put it anywhere.
Right.
But if we
I think
disallow
that's
it
encouraging.
in the village.
I don't want it in the village, but I don't want to say, hey, this is a good place, why don't you put it over here?
Okay.
I don't think we would
That's
say
So
that.
right now, cell towers could go in here anywhere, okay? Residential, commercial,
No, I think we should
industrial,
restrict it in
whatever.
our zone.
Keep them out of the
The
village.
likelihood of them going in this corridor here is small because of the Goodspeed Airport.
Well, that and
That is actually more restrictive than the gateway or anything
Correct.
else.
the airport is probably the biggest, and the other thing is that the tower can't be, if you put the tower at the intersection of 82 and 154, you still wouldn't have any cell service there.
Well, you'd have it, they're trying to get this and
I'm saying,
voters.
for example, if you put it right at the intersection, you wouldn't have any cell service there because they broadcast. There is no cell service under a cell tower.
Oh.
I know because I live under one and I have zero service.
Yeah.
It takes,
Actually,
you know,
that's-
they
Right.
broadcast
That's
out of their
irrelevant.
home. So it would need to be out of the,
And that's actually not true, because they broadcast through what they call triangulation. So if they put a tower here, or here, or here, it's going to be talking to the other towers, which is part of the reason why they want to do it in a tandem of 3. And it would be talking to the ones down 154 and across the river. And it offloads the broadband.
I understand all that, but I'm just saying, it doesn't need to be in the village district.
I think we agree on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all agree.
I think there needs to be one down there somewhere.
But that's not us.
That's not us.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
See? Oh, wait a minute.
We got 2 minutes. Motion to accept the March 22nd.
Second.
If that's the date. It is.
I have one comment. It says in there that I said McDonald's doesn't belong in a commercial zone. I may have actually said that, but I don't think that that's exactly what I meant. But other than that, I saw nothing wrong with this. It's-
So when I located it,
It's the
McDonald's
third,
does belong in a commercial zone, is what you're trying to say in that.
yeah,
Say.
but it says,
I'm tongue-tied, but I got it.
Here it is.
Sorry.
page 3, it's at the bottom, just before the last. Mr. Wallace stated he didn't believe McDonald's should go into a commercial zone.
He did believe, I do believe.
Well, I think that that's the only place he really can go.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll figure it out.
Okay,
So amended.
discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chairman's report, nothing to report. Please read what Liz handed out to us.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't put it on Facebook, but it would be nice. If you know, I mean, seriously, because somebody's gonna edit something, change it, misconstrue it, and she's gonna spend 4 hours on the phone Friday and Monday. Okay. Schedule hearings? Right?
Yep.
John,
So you have 85 Bridge next Thursday.
Yeah, but that hearing's already open, isn't it?
Yes. Then on April 19th, you will be opening one for the property that is behind the Spencer Shad Shack. It's the waterfront property that has frontage on Mill Creek and 150, Mill Creek and the Connecticut River. It's a 5-acre parcel that's sort of behind the Spencers. It's almost like a little peninsula. And they want to construct a dwelling in excess of 4,000 square feet and with a detached accessory apartment. So they're coming in for a special exception on that on April 19th. I don't have your plans yet, but I'll give them to you next week. And then in May, you're going to have another special permit for a house in excess of 4,000 square feet on the Connecticut River. This is unusual, we never, for the people who are new, we rarely get
Same
these.
lot?
Different lot.
Oh.
That one's on Horton Road.
There's no, are these empty lots now, or?
Yes.
There's no gateway commission?
No, Gateway has them
and.
and Gateway will be reviewing them.
Prior to us?
Yeah.
That Spencer lot, I can remember as a kid, as you probably remember, when they dredged the river, that thing would almost be level with the train tracks. And they would dredge it, that's what they would put it.
I hear they're gonna start doing that again too.
Dredging?
Yep.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe they could put some back on that island.
Where's the bag of stuff?
Steve?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Who's got the bag?
I want all, it's right there on the chair. I want all of these marked down.
Well, no, if it's from the. Of course, they've got all sorts of kid terms on.
Now I'm gonna get sick.
Yeah, you can think of me when you're throwing up later.
Where the hell did the food go?
What's that?
Where the hell did the food go?
The who, did you say?
Food go.